So in recent months on the channel, we've been talking about various notable executions across Canada. Some were deserved, some were botched, some were more than controversial. Now this one we're going to talk about changed the way that the process of trials and executions were conducted in Canada. And if you haven't heard about this before, if you're from New Brunswick especially, it could become a little bit surprised, because the person that was eventually executed for murder is also the name of a drink. You're all aware of the drink Tom Collins, but this Tom Collins was a real person, Tom Francis Collins. He was an English drifter who was convicted and hung for murder in Albert County, New Brunswick in 1907. Now, the events of the murder and trials resulted in several legal firsts in Canada, which also were applied to the Olin case in New Brunswick, the controversial case where the son of a massive entrepreneur was convicted of murder, but was retried and found not guilty, but the Crown decided to stay the charges because he couldn't get a conviction. Now, in this case, Tom Collins arrived in Albert County, beautiful area of southern New Brunswick, in the fall of 1906. He found room and board with the parish priest of New Ireland, north of what is present-day the beautiful Fundy National Park. He was there about a week when the priest left on church business. Now, when the priest returned, he found the body of his housekeeper, Mary Ann Macaulay, in the woodshed, with an axe wound to the back of her head and her throat slit. Tom Collins could not be located in the area, but was eventually found north of the community of St. George, which is part of that dual community, St. George, St. Andrews. He was found with a set of the priest's clothes and a pocket watch belonging to Mary Ann. Now, Collins was taken into custody and questioned later that evening. He gave his statement of what had happened that day, saying he had an argument with Mary Ann, but denying his guilt in the murder. This statement was not admitted at the first trial to improper reading of Collins's rights. Now, this is well before the Canadian Constitution and also the rights that are read to Canadian arrest subjects. So, again, about 75 years before the Charter. Now, the first trial began in January 1907. The prosecutor's case was circumstantial, but it received assistance when the judge gave his final instructions to the jury, stating in effect that the case was fully proven. The jury took 2 hours to come back with a verdict of guilty, and the judge immediately ordered Collins hanged. The verdict was overturned on the basis of a judicial misdirection, which was, of course, a first in Canadian legal history. And the media press on this was intense, because basically the judge said, I think he's guilty, so you got to find him guilty. Couldn't play out. Now, the second trial began numerous months later, on June 25th, 1907, with Collins himself taking the stand. The jury deliberated for 2 days, but were unable to come to a unanimous verdict, with 7 in favor of innocence and 5 opposed. A hung jury was declared, which precipitated a third trial. Now, the third trial began in the fall of 1907, presided over by the noted Daniel Lionel Hannington. The trial faced immediate trouble selecting the jury. Having had 2 previous trials and a media circus surrounding the case, it was difficult to find 12 impartial juries. Now, a grand total of 120 people were examined, a record at the time, before a suitable jury was selected. Now, 120 people in the St. George, St. Andrews region could be probably close to 6 to 10% of the population at the time, so they were really looking for an impartial jury as best they could. Now, Tom Collins was eventually found guilty in the third trial and was sentenced to hang. Now, there were several appeals to Ottawa and a last-minute appeal to Governor General Earl Grey, who, on the advice of the Privy Council, declined commutation. He was eventually hung by executioner John Ratcliffe at the Albert County Jail on November 15th, 1907. Now, details of this case are also available through the Albert County Museum, various media reports, and information at the time. But you got to understand, at the at the conclusion of the trial, a lot of people felt that obviously execution was a possibility, but the fact after a third trial, it just goes to show no matter the guilt of the innocence of the party, when someone is on trial, the aspect of the fair trial should supersede all. Did he get a fair trial in the first one? Of course not. The second trial, again, a hung jury basically is assigns that the fact that the Crown could not prove all the facts, but by the third trial, with 12 people good and true, it eventually led to his eventual execution. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening for this. This is a continuation of our Canadian true crime podcast. If you like what we're doing, give us a like, comment, or subscribe. And if you're ever down in the St. Andrews area, not just because of this case, check out the Albert County Museum. It's a very interesting location. As a reporter in New Brunswick for a number of years, the Albert County Museum at Hopewell Cape, it consists of 8 buildings actually, and the museum is quite a tour. You'd really enjoy it. Now, what you have to understand too with this location, it also serves as a commemorative location for our great Prime Minister R.B. Bennett, who grew up in the community. It also contains artifacts and displays related to, again, Collins. So you can go see information about Bennett, the Collins case, the different, judicial history of the region, and also the 1904 county courthouse where all this occurred. Anyway, so a very interesting location, very informative, and like I said, everything in southern New Brunswick is historical because, as a lot of people know, there's kind of a historical museum every 15 miles because of the Loyalists and the British influence. The Brits like the museums, and the Loyalist history is quite prominent in that area. Thanks for listening. Bye.